Okay, hello everybody. We're back with a section of Nerd Weekly. That's right. This is the first episode, and the whole point of Nerd Weekly is just to talk about everything nerdy. So, for example, anime, movies, games, books, TV shows, etc. Every week, I will try to talk about one thing that relates to that. More than likely, I'm going to talk about more than one thing that relates to those types of things. But nonetheless, that's what we're going to try to do here. So, first off, I thought I would talk about the supposed Star Wars Episode 9 title. I'm hoping to get this out before Star Wars Celebration actually happens and they announce it. But if I don't, then this section is kind of useless. But nonetheless, I just wanted to talk about it. So, according to Ain't It Cool News, I think is what it's called. Let me check real fast. Yes, Ain't It Cool News. They have reported that the Episode 9 title is going to be called Skywalkers. Now, first of all, I'm seeing a lot of people online talk about this and how obviously it isn't a good title, because it isn't a good title, plain and simple as that. But seeing a lot of people take this thing seriously. And one thing I think that they need to know is if you actually go to Ain't It Cool News, the website, they definitely have. It's definitely a good website, I would say, but the article where they reported on it didn't seem that serious. It seemed more satire to me than anything. Who knows? I might have misinterpreted the article, but I do think that it definitely isn't it just seems satirical. So I don't think this title is real. I don't think anybody thinks this title is real. It is just such a bad title. It's first off, it's only one word, which just doesn't sound right when you look at previous Star Wars titles, which are multiple words. You know, like you have Star Wars: A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, The Force Awakens, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, The Last Jedi, Rogue One. The only one I think, no, even Star Wars: A Solo Story. You know, it's still a solo story. Be it nobody, come on, Han Solo. Nobody wanted that film in the first place. But I just thought it would talk about that in terms of one of the things going on with Star Wars. And we'll find out everything to do with Star Wars Episode 9 this weekend, I believe. I believe we're going to get, at the very least, we are going to get a title for this film, which is definitely, I think Episode 9 is definitely one of the most interesting films that's going to come out this year, simply because of the fact that we don't know what's actually going to be able to happen with it. Like, are fans going to enjoy this? Are fans not going to enjoy this after the huge mixed reception that The Last Jedi was? We just have no idea what's going to end up happening with this. So I'm definitely very interested in it, especially because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So it would just be interesting to see what happens. Going on to another topic, still in films, is I thought I would talk about Avengers Endgame and my excitement for it. So Avengers Endgame obviously comes out April 26th. We got those two awesome trailers to it, and then we also got a couple of TV spots that they've revealed, and even that one scene that they showed at CinemaCon, they showed us a short version of that. According to everybody who was there, the version we got wasn't a version they got. There was like maybe 30 seconds clipped off of it, but nonetheless, that clip was very good. And I think it just is confirming a lot of theories right now that everybody has, like the theory that this movie isn't actually going to have them fight Thanos at the end of the movie. Who knows? They might still fight Thanos at the end of the movie, but the big speculation right now is that the Avengers will go up to Thanos in the first act of the movie, probably first 30, 40 minutes of the film, and then they'll try to fight him. They find out that the stones don't work anymore and they can't use them. They go back, and then Ant-Man comes back a few years later in a time skip. And then, boom, the Hope is reinnovated, and they have to go, back in time, whatever, or do fix realities, whatever they're going to do. They're going to do something with Ant-Man. Ant-Man is definitely going to be possibly the most the most pivotal character in this movie, which is very surprising. I like Ant-Man, I love him, but I didn't think that Ant-Man would end up being the most pivotal character if you asked me like 10, even 5 years ago to Avengers. But hey, I still think it's really cool that we get to have him as a pivotal character that's going to do a lot. and just to talk more about my excitement for it. The reason why I'm excited for this is because I grew up with Avengers. I grew up with this Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was born in 2000, and I'm 19 now, so I saw the first Iron Man in theaters in way back in 2008. And so this has been a year-long journey for me. It has been my childhood, basically. I don't think there's nobody else who can like really say that their childhood was like the Marvel Cinematic Universe except for people in my generation, and I think that is just the most amazing thing of all time. Like the fact that I got to grow up with these characters and that I love them so much. You know, I think that's really amazing, and the fact that Kevin Feige and everyone over there at Marvel has been able to consistently put out films, it's just mind blowing. Especially Captain Marvel. I saw it and I really liked it. I didn't think it was the best thing ever. I'd personally put it like at the same length of like possibly Doctor Strange or something like that. But it's nowhere near like a Winter Soldier or a Infinity War or the first Avengers. It's nowhere near that level, and I think it's unfair to compare movies like Captain Marvel to those, because Captain Marvel is an origin story. I've been seeing a lot of people compare like origin stories recently to like these big films, and I'm like, okay, wait, this is the first films. They have a lot of ground to cover. You have to cover the origin story, and you also have to cover, the background. You have to cover every other character's background in that as well, and like where they came from, how they're related to the main character. Like you actually have to cover a lot of ground in an origin story, and I just look at films, like Aquaman and Captain Marvel, and I think people were judging them too harshly. Like they were comparing them to more newer films, and I'm like, okay, wait, you really can't compare these films to a film like Avengers: Infinity War, or even a Guardians 2 or anything like that, because those films already have previous setups to them. They already, they're a sequel for a reason, and so I think that's unfair. Like they have more ease to do good things with the story because of the fact that they have already had a film done in the franchise. So I just think that's unfair. I think honestly, if these films came out like 10 years ago, people wouldn't be, people would, like, don't get me wrong, there's still out complaints to these films. I'm not saying there aren't, there definitely are. I have problems with both Aquaman and Captain Marvel. But I just think that if these films came out like probably like 10 years ago ish, I don't think people would complain that much. It's like weird because I remember when the first like Thor came out and even the first Captain America, people really liked those movies. They really did. There was still complaints and all that, but people really liked them. I don't know if those movies could come out nowadays and people would like them, because like I think that's basically what's happening with Captain Marvel and movies like Aquaman. I think that's what's happening. But, people are still liking these films. They definitely are. I mean, look, Captain Marvel, has a very high percentage on Rotten Tomatoes, and it also made, $1 billion at the box office, which nobody thought that was going to happen. There were a few people online who I saw, but I definitely didn't think that was going to happen, and I like Captain Marvel, and when I saw it, I thought, oh, this is probably going to do very well, but $1 billion, it's probably not, but it ended up doing that, so I'm really happy for it. And moving away from the MCU, because I've been talking about it for quite a bit, is I'll go on to the Lion King trailer that got released, and overall for the Lion King trailer, I just kind of want to say, I really, really did like it, but in the end, it definitely was a trailer more for fans and like the IP, because everybody knows what the Lion King is. Everybody does. That's just a fact. And when you look at it, the trailer wasn't meant to attract new people. It's kind of like what they've been doing. I know I said I'm getting away from the MCU, but I'm just using this as an example. It's kind of what they've been doing with the Endgame marketing, where they're just marketing it to fans and people who have already seen the previous films and not really trying to get new people to see it with showing big scenes. They're like, okay, we already know that the fans and audience knows what this franchise is and this famous IP. So instead of trying to show big scenes, let's just market the nostalgia aspect of it. And I really do think they're doing that well. Because man, that Lion King trailer was great. It worked beautiful. It worked fantastic. The fact that that is all animated, man. The Lion King seriously could end up winning Best Animated Film of the Year. And I know some people are like, oh, it could, it will. Look, you don't know. You have films like Toy Story 4 coming out, and I know everybody's, speculating about Toy Story 4. Oh, will it be good? It will not be good. I'm just gonna say this. I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be fantastic, especially when you look at the fact, that this kind of thing has happened with the previous two Toy Story sequels, where people are like, oh, why are you doing another Toy Story? You really don't need to do it. Look, the past two were very good. Why are you doing this? And the reason why they did it was because they had a story to tell that they thought was good and that audiences would like. And I think that's the exact same thing happening here. I know that I think it was at CinemaCon, or maybe it was a different con, Alan Horn came out, and talked about the fact that Toy Story 3 was only the ending to Andy's story and not Woody's story. And, when I heard that, I thought that was a fantastic way to put it and a fantastic reason why you should do a sequel to Toy Story 3. Because it definitely was the ending to Andy's story, but not Woody's. And Woody has been the character we've been following since the first one. I know some people are going to be like, what about Buzz? I have a feeling we're going to get a ending with Buzz as well. But definitely I think Toy Story has always more been Woody's story than anybody else's. It's been about Woody and Andy the entire time. Yes, Buzz is definitely a main important character. I'm not saying he isn't. But all I'm just saying is when you get down to the basic facts, Toy Story was always about Woody and Andy. And so I think that the fact that Toy Story 3 only ended one of those characters' journeys didn't fulfill the arc when you actually look back on it. And I think that's surprising that a lot of people didn't really think about it like this. And the fact that they were able to think about it once again just shows how smart they are at Disney and how, man, Alan Horn, he is genius, and it makes so much sense, why Bob Iger went out to go get him, out of retirement those years back. So I'm definitely excited for The Lion King. Can't wait for it. Looks amazing. But overall, I think they do need to end up releasing a trailer that actually shows what the film's about. Everybody knows what the film's about, but I think if they want to get as much money as possible, they just need to release, for the second trailer, release a trailer that actually talks about what the film's about. But then again, who knows? They might be thinking, you know what, we don't need to do that. We know we're gonna make tons of money off of this either way, So in the end, that would be exciting to watch, to see what ends up happening with The Lion King. But moving on from The Lion King and now going off in a totally different direction from films, let's talk about anime. Now I'm going to try to do an anime recommendation weekly thing, where every week I recommend an anime for everybody to watch. So this one, I think this time I'm going to more as do two anime, only because this first anime is an anime that, aired last season and everybody was talking about, so most people already know this. But this anime is called The Promised Neverland. And all I will say about it is that it is a horror mystery anime. And it is great. It is fantastic. It's only 12 episodes, 20 minutes apart. You can finish that in like about 4 hours-ish. And it's really great. And honestly, if you have the chance, you should watch it, because man, I couldn't believe how good it was. It's definitely one of my favorite anime that have come out in the past few years. And the fact how great the storytelling was, the fact that there's a big difference between it and the manga that it's adapted based off of, in the sense that in the manga you can see what the characters are thinking, but in this one you can't. So it adds a whole new layer to it, where you are also figuring things out along with the characters, and I really like that. I think it's really interesting, and it's very unique, and it's a fun experience. I haven't had as fun of an experience reading watching an anime as I have had with The Promised Neverland in the past few years. So I would definitely say go watch The Promised Neverland. It is really great. It's fantastic. Go watch it as soon as you can. Okay, now for my second recommendation, I have a lot of animes that I could recommend, and honestly, I was only planning on doing one, but I think this anime is definitely a great anime that people should just watch. And honestly, it only has 2 seasons, and it's really funny, it's really hilarious, so I think people should give it a chance, which is obviously School Rumble. Now, people in the anime community already know this anime, but Definitely, there are a lot of anime fans who don't bother to go back to watch old anime, and I just think that is such a shame. So what School of Rumble is basically about, it's about these characters in high school, obviously, School of Rumble, as the title suggests. But the anime is about Tenma Scotamo, I think that's her last name, who is in love with this other boy, and it's basically about that adventure along with other side characters and main characters. There's another main character called Harima who likes Tenma, but obviously Tenma likes this other person. And you find out things about why he likes her and why she likes this guy and all that. And it's a really fun anime. Each season is about 24 episodes, and it's great. It's hilarious. There's a lot of physical humor. And what I mean by physical humor is instead of them saying jokes, they show jokes. And I really like that type of humor more than saying jokes. But of course, there's still, like actual jokes in it. But it's just hilarious, the things the characters do, the lengths that they go to prove their love for a character. It's hilarious. It's amazing how good it is. And honestly, the fact that we'll never get season 3 is really sad. But in the end, these first 2 seasons were really good. So no matter what, I'd still recommend to watch it, even if you're somebody who wants to watch a complete show. I'd still say I'd recommend it to watch because it is hilarious. It is absolutely one of the best comedy animes that have ever come out. It's definitely one of my favorite comedies in terms of anime. Even just in media in general, it definitely is. Okay, well, that was my anime recommendation segment. I hope you all enjoyed that. Now, moving on from that, I'm going to talk about video games. So, obviously, Kingdom Hearts 3 has probably been one of the biggest games to come out this year, along with games like Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry 5, Anthem, and so on and so forth. But out of those, I only got 2 of those. I only got Kingdom Hearts 3 and Resident Evil 2. I've only finished Kingdom Hearts 3. When I eventually finish Resident Evil 2, I'll probably talk about it on the podcast. But for now, the Kingdom Hearts 3, what I want to talk about is that Kingdom Hearts 3 was absolutely a great adventure, and I don't think it was a disappointment. I'm seeing a lot of people online saying it was a disappointment. At the same time, I'm seeing people say it wasn't a disappointment. And overall, I think the reason why is just I think expectations were too high with this game. And I also still think, once again, that Square Enix messed up the ball with showing too much in their trailers. And I knew this was going to happen. They did the same thing with Final Fantasy 15. But no, you know what happened? A lot of Kingdom Hearts YouTubers, said, no, look, Square isn't that dumb. They're not going to show things they shouldn't show in the trailers. And they've learned from their mistakes. But I didn't. I bought into it. I bought into the lie, and I shouldn't have bought into that because in the end, they were just bad. They were bad about it. Those trailers were great, but they showed way too much. Now, I am not going to talk about spoilers. I'm just going to talk about things they shouldn't have shown. One, they shouldn't have shown anything from the Keyblade Graveyard. They just shouldn't have. That's the last 5 hours of the game. And the things they showed were way too much. They shouldn't have showed anything from it as well. They shouldn't have shown anything about Aqua. No, they shouldn't have shown anything about it because that entire... It just ends up like... I still like what they did with Aqua, but it just ended up being a disappointment overall in the end. I just think that they shouldn't have shown it because it wouldn't have been. Other things that... I think they should have shown. I think they should have shown a little bit more of the summons. Even just in the game, they should have made the summons more, not viable, but more obvious to use. Because you get told about them once, and then you basically don't use them. The only summon, and if you do use them, you only end up using Simba from Lion King, because he's the best summon in the game. I think they called something else in Kingdom Hearts 3, but come on, they're basically summons. And the thing is, in the end, it's just... I don't know. It was just the summons weren't that good. Like Rocket Ralph was very disappointing. I don't like using his summon at all. Stitch, once again, it just comes down to really we're getting another Stitch summon. We can't go to Evo and Stitch in the game. Other disappointments with Kingdom Hearts 3 was the fact obviously no Final Fantasy characters. But I understand. Like a lot of other people, I understand what Nomura means when he wants. Excuse me. when he wants Kingdom Hearts 3 to move past Final Fantasy. I absolutely understand what he means by that, because I think at a certain point, you need to stop relying on what was getting people to your game franchise in the first place. And I think he just thought that Kingdom Hearts was ready at this point, with it being, like, what, 10 games in, 12 games in, something like that. He just thought that the franchise was ready to live on no Final Fantasy characters. And I definitely understand that sentiment, but I just think that with Kingdom Hearts 3 being the final game in this saga, that was the wrong mistake, that it shouldn't have happened, and we should have gotten Final Fantasy characters. And, I think, he was definitely surprised by this, and I think maybe in future titles we will get Final Fantasy characters. But at the same time, I don't know exactly if we will, because I think with him having to do the Final Fantasy VII remake, he might honestly, just end up getting tired of, like, having to use those characters, because in the end, Final Fantasy VII remake is going to be a huge undertaking for him. But going back to the main thing of why Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't a disappointment. Overall, I think the trailers showed way too much, got people excited, thinking, man, they are hiding a lot of other stuff. They built too much characters up in the trailers, which I still think got fans too excited for the game. And just other things like that. Because when I look at the game, it was good. All around, it was a good game, and I was not disappointed. Everything to do with the Keep It Graveyard, I loved. Everything to do with the Disney Worlds, I loved. Besides maybe some problems I have with, obviously, Frozen, I think, is the one a lot of people have with problems. But speaking of Frozen, I think a really great video to go check out is MatPat's game theory about what happened with the Frozen World. And it's such a good theory that, like, I actually buy into it, because I do think Disney, if they were to mess with any of the Kingdom Hearts worlds in it, it would definitely be Frozen, because of how big that franchise just is with them. And the fact is, like, everything he talks about just makes sense, because you look at Frozen, that road and the story that they do is just the most weirdest. And I think that in the end they just decided, yeah, you know what, we're just going to tell Nomura and his team what to do, and they're just gonna have to change what they've already done, it's not good, but it is what it is. And who knows what will end up happening with Kingdom Hearts 4 or a future Kingdom Hearts game. But besides that, everything was really good. The humor and writing on this game was great. Donald had me laughing by a lot of the things he would say. I was surprised. Goofy, of course, was great as always, and Sora, he was definitely better than he was in Dream Drop Distance, I think. He still had a couple of dumb moments in this, like the fact that he kept asking about what the road order was. It's like, oh, come on, Sora, you know about this already. Other than that, though, it was great. It was absolutely great, I think, with the writing, and Sora was a great character. And obviously, the other characters were great, as always. The only characters I had a problem with, I didn't actually have as much of a problem with Kairi as a lot of other people did. I'm not going to say why or go into specifics, but I think people got too excited about her character, whereas I honestly wasn't that excited for her character, and so overall, I just thought it was okay, what they did with her character. And as for the ending, I'm not going to talk about it. I think a lot of people just don't like the type of ending Kingdom Hearts 3 went with, but I really liked it. I thought it was great. I can't even compare it to another game without spoiling it, but, obviously you have the secret ending, which hints at a lot of things about what's going to happen with the future of Kingdom Hearts 3, but overall, I just thought, Kingdom Hearts, it was just great. I loved the ending. I was shocked and surprised, and the more I thought about it, I thought, this makes sense. This just makes sense as an ending. It fits everything to do with Sora's character, and it just fits the franchise super well. Because I'm seeing a lot of people say the ending doesn't make any sense. No, it does. It fits in perfectly with Sora's character. It definitely does. It fits in with all the jokes people make about Sora. It works perfectly. And obviously, we're gonna get a future Kingdom Hearts game, and it's probably gonna be very great. But I just think the ending was actually great, and a lot of people just didn't like that type of ending that they went for. But I really did. I thought it was a really great ending, and I loved it. I understand why people felt uh, mixed about it, but I don't know. I just really loved it. Now, moving on from video games, we have so far talked about video games, an anime, and movies. Now, the only other things that we can really talk about are books or things, but like just books or TV shows. So really, in terms of books, it's just gonna end up going back. I haven't really read any recent books recently, or anything like that. But if I have to talk about a book, I would probably end up talking about a Star Wars book. So just to give a recommendation for a book for Star Wars is Star Wars Lost Stars is still, in my opinion, the best canon book I've ever read. And even with the old expanded universe books that I read the Thrawn trilogy. I still think Lost Stars is one of the best books in Star Wars. And it's brilliant. It's amazing. It's written by Claudia Gray, who I think at this point is the best Star Wars canon author out there. And it's such a great book. It's such a great book. And I want a sequel. Who knows if we're gonna get it? But I would definitely recommend go reading it. It takes place across the span of after Revenge of the Sith, like about 5 years after, to all the way like 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And it's such a great book. It's about two characters, and it's basically the Star-Crossed Rivers story, except it doesn't really focus on that bit that much. It does, don't get me wrong, but definitely not as much. And it's just such a great book because it shows two characters on other sides of the war, and it definitely makes you realize that this isn't black and white. This war, it isn't. And I just really appreciate that. And the writing is just so great. And, what's the most surprising is that it's a young adult novel, but yet the book was so great. So definitely go out and read it if you can. It's definitely, like, they used to only have a hardcover version, despite it being a young adult, but eventually they did release a paperback version. So definitely go out and read it. Buy it from, like, Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com, anything like that. Just go out and read it because it's a real great wonder. And then the second book recommendation, also having to do with Star Wars, I would say probably go out and get Bloodline, another Claudia Gray book, which takes place, I think, 5 years before Force Awakens, and it's about Rey in the Senate. And it's very great. It talks about the political road of Star Wars after Return of the Jedi and before The Force Awakens. And it's very interesting, and it's a very great read, especially because, for me personally, that's how I ended up making a lot of theories for The Last Jedi out of that book. So overall, definitely go read those two books, I'd say. Now, in terms of TV shows, obviously we've got to talk about Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is just going to be, it is this Sunday. I'm recording this on Thursday, the 11th, and man, it's crazy to think. I remember when season 7 ended, and hearing the news that season 8 wouldn't come out for like a year and a half, or like, about it. And I was mad, but I was also happy because I knew, well, okay, they need to take the time and make it the best thing possible. And it's here, and it just feels so unreal. They've already did the premiere, for the world premiere, and so, man, this is the end of a journey that's been going on since 2010. And just to give you guys a perspective, I ended up joining the show before season 4. I ended up watching the first 3 seasons all back to back. I heard about the Red Wedding. I didn't know who died in it or anything like that, but man, that was a shocker watching the Red Wedding. It really, really was. And I just couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, this is surprising that this is what the direction they went through. And overall, I really liked season 4, season 5 as well. And then, obviously season 6, 7 have problems, but I still overall like them. I still think, that they're doing good. The showrunners over there are doing good with this show. They're not doing a bad job, that's for sure, but they are definitely doing a good job at the very least. And this season, it's definitely going to be interesting to see because it's only, I think, 6 episodes. The first 2 episodes are like normal length, and then after that, they're longer than that. But I don't know what's going to happen, honestly. It's so impossible to predict. Everybody is close to predicting who's going to win the Iron Throne and all that. And the thing is, we already know Game of Thrones is probably not going to have a happy ending. But, at the same time, it's all those things where, you know, they need to stick this landing, as Game of Thrones has been one of the biggest TV shows, of the past decade, and like of all time as well. And I think if they just get an ending that people hate, this show won't work. People will look at everything else in the show and look back upon it, negatively. And I don't think that they can do that. I think they need an ending. It can still be an unhappy ending and be satisfying. That's possible, but I don't know what they're going to do with it, because honestly, there's certain characters that they can kill off that fans just won't, at a certain point, will still be sad about. But I don't know if they could that much. For example, I already said with me, the moment they brought back Jon Snow from the death is the moment I knew it's like, oh, okay, this. If they kill him off in the future, I will be sad for sure. But will I care that much? Will I cry again? Probably not. And that's because you killed him once already. And so the emotion I had in that one death, all went through. And then when you brought him back, I was happy and excited. But I think that definitely got rid of any type of future sadness from a death. Which is why, even if he does die, I will be sad, but I definitely won't cry or anything like that. And I think that's simply because the fact that they already killed him once. Now, for the other characters, definitely I would cry. But I don't know if they, there's certain characters that look out and I think, well, okay, what, they die though? That, I guess they can die because it is in the big war, but I mean, it would just be so weird. For example, Bran. That would, I don't know, I would be sad for sure, but I think that's just such a weird character to see dying, because he can't do anything, and his death would actually probably be the most tragic death of them all. I don't see that happening. I honestly don't see him dying, but who knows, Bran might end up dying. Other characters, it's like Sansa and Arya, Sansa doesn't fight as well, so that would be, at that point, if they end up dying, it's going to end up being because other characters, the war ends up getting into Winterfell, and, they end up getting chased through Winterfell, and they end up dying, or who knows what. It's I think it's the other characters that are going to be fighting that I'm more invested in. Obviously, Daenerys Targaryen, man, ooh, that would be sad if she died, man. Oh, that would be terrible, man. That would just be awful. Or if a character like Brienne of Tarth or the Hound or anyone like that, more than likely Arya is gonna fight as well. Gendry is gonna fight as well. So on and so forth. Davos is probably gonna fight, maybe. And all those characters. Who knows? Davos might not fight. I don't know why. I don't think, can he fight? I don't know if he. I don't think he won't actually. Take that back. Jorah of Mormont would probably fight, and it would be a fantastic watch for sure to see what ends up happening, who ends up winning the Iron Throne, because I don't know, Cersei, it would be hard for her to die. I don't know how that would happen unless she goes up there herself. You see, it's just gonna be weird. Sorry about that. It's just going to be a weird time, I think, with that. Other than that, that's basically my whole talk about Game of Thrones. Is it's going to be good, obviously. The last season was. And the only worry I think you should have is that because it's more likely going to be a sad ending, that might end up making the ending unsatisfying. But I don't think they'll do that. I think they know they have to make it a satisfying ending. It can be sad, but it has to be satisfying, and you can't have an ending that doesn't satisfy your audience. Because when you do something like that, it does hurt the perception of the rest of the show. And I think they're smart enough to know that they need an ending that is at the very least satisfying. It doesn't have to be happy, but at the very least satisfying. Okay, let's see. So far I've talked about basically everything that I said I would talk about. But I'm probably going to mention a few more things that I just really want to talk about, such as, let me see real fast. I have a list of things that I put down that I wanted to talk about. I don't think I talked about Hellboy, the new Hellboy. Recently, reviews have been coming out for it. And honestly, we knew that this wasn't going to be good. The fact that they held the review embargo till the like Thursday, basically today I'm recording this, just kind of showed the confidence in it and showed that they really did not think that this was going to be a good film, which does, it sucks because, you want a film to be good. There's never a time when a film's coming out that I don't want it to be good. And overall, Hellboy, as of right now, of the time I'm recording this, has a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes with 58 reviews. 12%. That is bad. That is awful. And man, the fact that just, I know people are gonna say, "Oh, don't look at reviews. You trust your own opinion and all that stuff." And I understand that. You definitely should. Don't get me wrong. You should definitely still go see Hellboy if you were interested at all. Who knows? You might find something enjoyable that those people didn't. Look, in the end, 12%. That's still saying 1 out of every 10 people like it. I think a lot of people don't realize how the percentage system actually works. So 1 out of every 10 people like it. So there's a 10% chance, that you might like this film. But it is also a 90% chance that you're going to hate this film. That's just how it works. And so I would definitely say, hey, if you really wanted to go see it, and who knows, you might enjoy it. I still think I might end up seeing it because I was interested in watching it, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to be any good, especially with a percentage like that, which does suck. That does suck a lot. But definitely go do that though, because it's 12%. And if you are someone who has to choose what movies to go see, I say don't go watch it. Watch a film you're more excited to see. Like, let me see if the review embargo came out for Riddle or not. That is a film that I'm sort of interested in, but also not, because I think the trailers have been so far, but I don't know. Who knows? 55% on Rotten Tomatoes, with only 41 reviews though. So that can go up. That percentage can go up, but 55%. If you add like 10 more reviewers to it, that could go up to 60%. So I think there's a good chance that people would enjoy Riddle. The trailers haven't done much for me personally, but I know they've done a lot for other people. So I would definitely say, go out and watch any film you're interested in. Go out and watch despite what people are saying. But I would also say still take in what people are saying when in consideration. Because if you're someone who can only go watch one film, definitely make sure, you're getting the most for your bang for your buck. That's what I would say with it. But at the same time, to not look at that overly too much at the same time. I think it's a good mixture of both, which is what I personally do. Even if a film has bad reviews, I still personally go see it. I saw Venom, I saw with a Battle Angel and so on and so forth, despite the fact that they didn't have necessarily a good percentage on Rotten Tomatoes. I still went out and go saw them, and I did enjoy both. I still don't think they're good films. I still enjoyed both though, for various different reasons that I think we can get into on another podcast, where I possibly just talk about bad movies that I enjoy. And trust me, there is a lot of bad movies that I enjoy that people hate. I know that's bad, but I enjoy it. And in the end, movies are subjective, and everybody has a different opinion. Everybody has a different experience watching a film. No two experiences are exactly the same. So there's nothing objective about a film. I just want to make that clear, is that in the end, you're going to have a different opinion than me. I'm going to have a different opinion than you. But that's what makes film so great, is the fact that that can happen, and the fact that everybody can talk about that. I really like that. I really love it. And I think that's great. Same thing for games and books and things like that. They're subjective as well, and that's great, and that's amazing. Let's see. I think that's about it for me to talk about. Oh no, wait, I have one more thing to talk about, which is the PSN ID change for video games. This is going back to video games in the end. So the PSN ID change, we're finally being able to change our ID for PlayStation Network. After all these years of asking, it took them so long. In the end, it's going to cost you $10 if you don't have your PSN online account. For $60 a year. or is it 50? It's one of those two. Or it's gonna cost you $5 if you do have it. I think that's a good price range. But overall, from my understanding, it has been causing critical issues in some games, which is interesting, and I think that's obviously going to happen. It's just it's weird that it took them this long, but at the very least, they're doing something good, and I'm happy about that. Other than that, there are definitely more things I could talk about, but I don't want to make these podcasts about an hour long or anything like that. I'd rather have these podcasts still be relatively short, and I think 40 minutes is like a good time. So thank you all for checking out the podcast of Nerd Weekly, and thank you all for joining me. This was a lot of fun to do, and I'm definitely going to do more podcasts, probably at least once a week. Now, this is probably only going to go on for the next 4 weeks, and then after that, because of the fact that the way I'm recording this I'm recording this at my university because I have this great sound system for me to record at. Now, unfortunately, having to do with that, obviously summer's coming up and I'm not going to be able to record, but I definitely am going to try to record at the very least for the next 4 weeks and get 4 podcasts out there. And then after that, hopefully I'll end up doing just videos with me IRL with my face, and maybe I can end up doing podcasts back home. There is a mic at my home that my brother has that I can possibly just use to record audio. It probably won't be good as these ones, but it will still be good though. So who knows what's going to end up happening? But I want to thank all of you for coming to my podcast and listening to Nerd Weekly. I think it's a lot of fun. I like to talk about things that I love, and I'm happy you all decided to join me. So I hope you all have a good day, and make sure to keep being a nerd. Being a nerd is great. You shouldn't be ashamed for it. Don't let anybody tell you to be ashamed for it. And overall, have a great day, everybody.